Hi there, welcome to Victim to Victor, the podcast dedicated to empowering abuse survivors and inspiring healing, hope, and positive change. I'm Verma, a published author, and in every episode, I'll sit down with a guest and embark on an insightful conversation about trauma, as well as practical strategies to start the healing process. So let's get started. I hope you enjoy the show. And here is Mr. Gerard Long, all the way from Chichester. How are you doing today, Gerard?
Hi, yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. It's a little milder today, and yes, it's a lovely part of the country. I'm very grateful to be here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I love it down south because my little boy's dad lives in Portsmouth. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, so we're down there quite a lot actually. It's very naturous, and obviously you got the sea.
Yes,
It's
yes,
yeah.
yes. No, it's beautiful. It's a lot of history, culture, beautiful.
Oh, lovely. So, as I mentioned in my introduction, you are the author of Living Hope, and it's such an honor to have you on today because I have actually listened to some of your previous talks, and wow, powerful messages that you share. And I'm really honored to have you on to share some inspirational messages for my listeners because, as you know, this show is for survivors of abuse and trauma. So, I
Yes.
feel, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not my honor and privilege too to be on and pass on some of the things we've learned on our journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be great for you to share, some of the support groups that you have
Yes.
opened up, which are obviously very successful now. And
Yes.
so it'd be good for my listeners to also have some information about that. But
Of course.
first
Yeah.
of all, it'd be great for you to maybe share your story with my listeners and obviously
Yes.
who you are and where you are today.
Yes. Yes. No, I'll be pleased to do that. So I'll start actually just 2 years ago because it's a sort of a significant point in me writing the story. My latest book, Living Hope,
Yeah.
Awakening Faith, Peace and Purpose
Mm.
in Tough Times. And it started on the 26th, this part of the story anyway, started on the 26th of October 2019. And at that time I was living in the States in a place called Malibu in Southern California.
Oh,
Beautiful
okay.
part of the world.
Yeah.
We'd been there for 6 years. We've been living in the States for about 20 years, actually.
Oh, lovely.
And I'd gone round to my friend's house to watch England play New Zealand in the semi-final of the Rugby World Cup.
Oh,
And mad keen rugby supporter. Because it
yeah.
was being streamed from Tokyo, it was 1 a.m. in the morning.
Ooh, okay.
Turned out to be significant, actually. So England
Mm,
scored early on, and my friends looked over to me to expect me to be jubilant.
yeah.
And I was slumped in my chair, and they thought I was having a seizure. That was their first thought, of having a seizure. And then there was a number of things kicked in, which I would say are divine. I am a person of faith, I should say up front. So I see the
Yeah.
lens I look through. I tend to see God in things that maybe other
Wow.
people wouldn't.
Yeah.
One of these young lads, I was sort of mentoring him, was that he was watching it with me, and he felt this sort of download to start pumping my chest. Now he'd never done CPR in his life before, and I should say one of the other guys Googled my symptoms, and he said that's not a seizure, that's a cardiac arrest he's having. So
Wow.
anyway, they got me on the ground, pumping my chest, 30 pumps, mouth to mouth. Did
Mm,
that for 10 minutes. In that time, my friend got his wife downstairs. She was a former nurse. She came downstairs and she said, checked all my vitals and said, "I'm sorry, he's gone. There's nothing."
wow.
I'd flatlined.
Okay.
Statistics are that in the States, something like 395,000 people die of a cardiac arrest every year.
Mm,
Of those who have a cardiac arrest outside of a hospital, only 6% survive. And of those, 90% have serious brain damage because of lack
wow.
of oxygen to the brain.
Okay.
So first responders come, they take over, and literally for the next 20 minutes, they try to get us a heartbeat, and with no
Mm,
success. Pumping, electric shocks to the heart. They gave me 6 or 7 electric shocks. They were about to give up. And these two young lads, again, would not allow me to go. Please do one more. Do one more, they said.
Wow.
So they did, and they found a heartbeat.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it was
Just like that.
absolutely,
That's
absolutely. So
crazy.
after 30 minutes, after being flatlined for all that time, they suddenly
Wow.
found this heartbeat.
Oh my
So they rushed
goodness.
me to the UCLA in Santa Monica, and I revived, obviously.
Mm.
Amazing thing was they gave me an MRI. They thought I'd be a cabbage after all that
Yeah.
time, and gave me an MRI. And the medic came out, said to my wife Jeannie, he said, "This is a miracle. He's got no brain
Mm.
damage," and she
Wow, that
couldn't
is a
believe it.
miracle.
So anyway, after about 36 hours of lying in the ICU, I started to come round, and I'm asking God. I'm saying, why am I still here? No,
Wow.
this is bizarre.
Yeah.
Why am I still here? And I felt God give me this message, if you like, to say you need to share the things that I showed you during that period of catastrophic suffering that
Yeah.
Jeannie and I had gone through. Particularly, I mean, it had extended beyond these 8 years, but particularly between 2005 and 2014.
Okay.
And I'll go on to share about that period, but that gives you a little bit of background to it. So 2004, I was working for HSBC. I was very high up in HSBC, earning a
Okay.
lot of money as an expat international banker, living in at that stage in
Mm.
Chicago in this beautiful house. Everything was going brilliantly in our
Yeah.
lives, and I guess some of your listeners would remember those days.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everything was great.
Yeah.
The sun was out, the sky was blue, the birds were singing, every which way you looked. And I actually said to my wife, "Does it get any better than this?"
Oh, that's so
Everything was
special.
great. Three
Yeah.
beautiful children. They're all Brent. I was an ex-athlete. Jeannie was a ballerina, Royal Ballet School. All of this.
Yeah.
So everything amazing. Short time after that, 2005. It was so. If anyone listening knows the biblical story of Job in the Bible, Job
Yeah.
is a character who in the Old Testament who had everything. He was one of the richest guys in the East, it says, and then suddenly everything started to goes wrong. But God was working through that for a purpose.
Yeah.
Everything started to go wrong. The wheels started to fall off everything. And at the end we got to the bottom of the valley at the end of the year. My youngest son, Alex, he was
Mm.
17 years old. He such a precious young man.
Yeah.
Great athlete, brilliant athlete. And he took now they said it was marijuana. And I've since learned that there's a small percentage of people who react badly to marijuana. And he
Right.
became delusional and
Goodness.
paranoid,
God.
and he committed suicide.
Over marijuana.
Yeah,
Oh my
and
goodness.
it was absolutely, I mean, just totally out. We never come across suicide in our lives before,
No.
and he had everything going for him, and our world just fell apart.
Mm.
Um,
So,
my precious wife Jeannie, her mother's heart shattered, from shock to horror to anger, and then the horrible thing with suicide is blame
right.
and
Okay.
shame,
Yeah.
because you're not only grieving for your loved one, and for a child it's 100 times worse, but you're blaming yourself. Why didn't you see it coming? Why
Yeah.
didn't you do something about it? And so she hated herself as mum. She hated me because if I hadn't brought the family to America, first we were in New
Mm.
York, now to Chicago, Alex would still be here.
Yeah.
And all the decisions nearer to it, she was trying to rewind the clock because she was so broken inside.
Right.
So our marriage went from being beautiful to being totally the other end, and she hated me
Mm.
and she wanted to leave me, and she was looking for ways to get out.
Oh boy.
And she hated God because we'd been try to do His will for 24 years or so,
Yeah.
and then she lost her faith for 2 years. She couldn't reconcile how a loving God could have allowed this to happen to us. I mean,
Yeah. I
we
understand.
were trying to do good. We were doing good, and and everything
Yeah.
else. So as much as she ran away from God, I ran into God, and I used to get up in the middle of the night and go down to my study, and I used to cry.
Mm.
Not just cry is not the right word. I wept from my bottom of my belly, um, crying out to God, help me. I mean, that's a great prayer. Help,
Mm.
help. And I have to say, in that time, the presence, I would say it was the presence of God in that room was unbelievable. I just sensed there was so much love there. And he gave me these three epiphanies. And I won't give them all out because people could get the book. You can read them in the book.
Okay.
But one of them, I'll give you one of them. One of these, as I was weeping, I used to go just down on my knees, and if I had people watching, they must have been like this if they've been through trauma and been victims and hurting and pain. They know something of what I'm talking about. And as I was sobbing, I felt an arm around me, and it was so real. I looked up to see who was there, and there was no one physically there, but I sensed that actually it was Jesus was with me, and he had his arm around me. But the thing that really got to me was that he was weeping with me. Wow. He was broken in my brokenness. And it sort of gave me an awareness of the fact that God hates all the suffering in this world. Yeah. He sees it all, and he gets blamed for it, where it's not his fault. It's our fault rejecting him. And I believe it's because we've said to God, we don't want anything to do. We are God. We'll do what we want to do. We've pushed God out. And ever since we've done that, and the Bible is very clear. If you look through the stories, it's very clear, very clear. And as a consequence of that, we've got disorder. Is the best way to describe it. Disorder in the universe. And it affects everybody, good and bad. Everybody gets impacted by that. Yeah. So people say, well, why doesn't he stop it? Well, the answer is he's going to. There is going to be a day when I believe this age will come to an end, and then there's a better age coming when there's no more death or mourning or pain. That's my belief. Yeah. And but the thing is, we have a choice. Human beings have a choice to either be God ourselves. Yeah. We wouldn't say that, but we basically, by being in the center of our universe. Whereas if you think we're created, and I believe we are, God should be at the center. It should be not about what we want. It should be about what God wants. So when you ask the question, why is there all the fighting in the world? It's all down to selfishness when you boil it all down.
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
You've got what I want. Give it to me. I'll smash you. Smash you in the nose. At the basic level.
Basically.
People don't do. I mean, they say unkind things, but it comes down to who's God in your life. And so I believe God should be in the center. And when He's in the center, order starts to come. And so every day, I'm sharing a bit more of my faith. I hope you don't mind me this, but I believe Jesus came to rescue us. We know He came. Question is, fully man, but was He fully God? I believe He was. And what He did when He died on the cross was to make a way for us to be forgiven for messing up. And we've all messed up.
Oh God, yeah, we all do.
We've all, no one can say, no. To God's standards, you're way off. I'm sorry.
No one's an angel.
I don't mind how many good things you've done. You'll never meet God's standard. So we need someone to come and rescue us, and I believe that was Jesus when He came. So we all have an opportunity. Everybody, whether you're brought up in a Christian country or whether you're Muslim or whether you're Buddhist, everybody has an opportunity to receive what Jesus has done and come into relationship with God through Him. Yeah. So here's the paradox for God. On the one hand, His heart's broken by all this suffering. It really hurts Him. On the other hand, every day is another opportunity for more people to come into relationship with Him for eternity.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
So
yeah.
I got that, and that gave me such a heart for the suffering, because I wanted to alleviate some of God's pain, if you like.
Oh, bless. Yeah.
And that led me to some decisions. I won't do all of that. Anyway, 2 months after Alex, my sister died of cancer.
How? Why?
She had cancer. She'd been undiagnosed. She had this terrible back pain. She'd had breast cancer like 5 years before, and they told her she was over it. And boy, they should have recognized it. But she had this terrible pain in her back, unbelievable pain, and they didn't diagnose it for 11 months. Oh. And then they finally said, "I'm sorry, you've got bone cancer."
And I hate it when that happens, when they're just not diagnosed. And it's there.
Yeah. And it was so painful for her. So they tried to give her chemo, but it basically killed her. And so I had to rush back from the US, went to see her in a hospice, and was there when she passed, And it was interesting because she suddenly sort of manifested as she was about to go. She suddenly sat up from being semi-conscious. And my mother really believed that she was seeing heaven, and there was a sort of a link between her spirit leaving and her physical body manifesting. It was bizarre, and I have believes absolutely that we go from here directly to heaven when we die. So that was heartbreaking. A few years after that, my brother died of cancer. I was there when he passed as well. I saw his spirit leave him, which is another story. Then my Jeannie's nephew died of a car accident. This is all within the 8-year period, and then God forbid, at the end of 8 years, our beautiful daughter Rebecca, she was the most beautiful girl you can imagine, in every way. Again, another great athlete. She had a terrible accident in Lake Michigan, and she fell in, and she couldn't get out where she'd fallen. And she tried to swim around to a boat ramp, and the water was 37 degrees, and she got hypothermia, and she drowned. So we were just my wife had, after in that 8 years, had sort of surfaced again from the terrible grief of Alex. Our marriage was restored, her faith was restored, and things were looking up. And then she suddenly sucked down into the darkness again, and she couldn't go on. She nearly died after Alex. She had her intestines knotted twice. She had to have emergency surgery. She nearly lost her mind. She was nearly admitted to a psychiatric hospital. She knew she couldn't go on, and so she was going to take her life. And she went up to the bedroom where it was Rebecca's bedroom, actually, and she wasn't going to come out. And when she opened this door, she told me it was like a light came in this room. Now, I saw her go up. She was like a zombie. She wasn't there anymore. I mean, she'd just given up. And she said a light came into this room. She didn't see anything physical, but it was like a light. And she said the room filled with like love and joy. It was almost like she was transported for a minute to be in heaven, because she had a sense that Rebecca and Alex were behind her. Yeah. But she didn't need to look, she said, because she was so enamored with who if she felt it was Jesus in front of her. And it's just this love, waves of love coming over her, and joy. And she said, she described it like this. She said it was very hard to describe it, but she said it was like she could breathe for the first time in 8 years. It was just like everything was lifted off her. And God said some interesting things to her, but one of the things he said was, Jeannie, your grief is not your own. Okay. So anyway, she came downstairs after this, and I looked up, and I tell you, her face was shining. Yeah. Her face was shining, her eyes were glistening. And I said to Jeannie, what has happened to you? It was just, and she just told me what I just told you. So there we are, both of us, broken people. I don't mind telling people this. We're broken people. But we're saying, okay, God, if this somehow you want to turn this around for good, and if you look through Scripture, you won't find any person that God uses that doesn't suffer, because through it God does something deep inside of us. So those words that he said to Jeannie, your grief is not your own. We have this ability to empathize now with just about anybody, because we should all have compassion. All of us should have compassion for fellow human beings. But when you've gone through it, when you've gone through that pain of a relationship breaking up, or the pain of losing a loved one, or the pain, God forbid, of a suicide in the family, you can connect with people like no other, because you've been there. Empathy gives you the ability to say, I know what you're going through, because I've walked the same walk. And that's when we launched our ministry. That I stepped down. I was doing another non-profit. I stepped down. I was doing a non-profit called Alpha, which is introducing people to Jesus, actually, in his teachings. We started a ministry called Awakening to God Ministries, and that's now reaching literally millions of people. I think this year we will have reached 58 million people through social media, our social media channels, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and others. And giving messages of comfort, helping people when, I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, when you're really in that place of brokenness. I mean, I thought my world had stopped.
Yeah, you do.
And you look out and you say, why is everyone still going on? Don't they realise the world has stopped?
Exactly, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And people can relate to that, I'm sure. And so we can speak into that. And we can help them. When we can help, I have 5 steps to help people journey through suffering. Because we're not taught it. I mean, it should be some of the things we're taught at school, really, isn't it? I suppose people would think it was too negative. But the reality is, we all do go through suffering in life, one form or other. Some are more extreme than others, but Suffering being anything happening in your life that you don't want. That's a form of suffering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask, so when your wife had that message that her grief isn't her own,
Yeah.
whose grief is it?
Well, I believe it's like God had given us this gift to be able to relate
Right.
through our pain to
Okay.
other people. Yeah.
Mm,
So that he wanted not for us to get into a pity party,
yeah.
but not to get bitter, because that's one of the things when things go wrong. The plans don't work out.
Yeah.
It's very easy to get
Bitterness.
bitter, isn't it? Really, especially
Absolutely.
unforgiveness is one of the things, a huge thing in our lives.
That is.
When
Yeah.
we've been abused or things have happened, unforgiveness really it's only going to damage you and
Yeah.
those around you. It
Yeah.
probably won't damage the person that you're bitter against. So one of the things I teach people is, for goodness sake, and it's going to be so painful, but get rid of that bitterness and start living your life again. Um, so that's the answer to the question, is
Oh,
that
thank
God
you. Yeah.
had given us this journey. Not that anyone would have chosen it. We certainly wouldn't ever have ever, but it is what it is. And as I say, if you go through scripture, you go through history, the people that God's used the most are the people who've been through really tough times.
It's so
I mean,
true.
right at the center of the Christian faith is the cross, where Jesus died on a cross. I mean, he was being tortured to death in front of his mother.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty gruesome, isn't it?
That is awful. Yeah.
And yet, the Christian faith teaches that through that, because he was
Through
being our
pain.
substitute, taking our sins on himself, he made a way for the rest of us to have our sins forgiven and be with God for eternity. Yeah, that's the Christian message, So it's bizarre. If there's a paradox, we live in this incredibly broken world where there's so much suffering, and yet God calls us, I believe, to turn around. I love your title. Turn around from being a victim to being a victor.
Mm,
That we journey through from. I call it these three phases. Where the first phase, you need comfort.
yeah.
You don't try and correct people. You love
Ah,
on them.
okay. Yeah, I
You're
like
with
that.
them. All of that. Yeah. Because they need to have that comfort in that stage. The next stage is when you get, I call restored. So you come back to where you were before, so to speak, apart from the fact that you're now different
Yeah.
because of what's happened to you.
Hmm.
And then the third phase is, I call it a phase of triumph. And a phase of triumph is where you turn around the bad for good.
Yeah.
And that's when you go out and help other people.
Okay.
You can now go to other people and say, "Hey, I know what you're going through. I want to help you.
Yeah.
I want to love on you." We do. One of the things we do is we help the poor in India. We've done 53 villages of clean water and mosquito nets and medical aid and food, because we want to help people who are suffering.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's amazing. So, thank you for doing that. I actually say thank you because obviously,
Sure. Yeah.
India's my community. So, yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay. Well, that's yeah.
I know a lot of people don't, but I don't know. My name, I guess that could be from anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Verma.
I couldn't tell that. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. No, that is amazing. And I know, in the villages, there's a lot of suffering, even, with the water and the food, but also
Oh.
I know
Yeah.
about the children and women. A lot of them
Yeah.
are at danger as well.
I mean, as they call it's something like 300 million of them. They call them the untouchables, which is, they're the lowest of the low. They're at the bottom of the rung, and there's no health care for them. If the breadwinner gets sick, people are going to die. And so I love it when we go over there and we go and be with them and just love on them and bless them and do good for them. And we want to carry on. We're just launching this thing where we're going to give them these survival buckets where they have
Wow.
solar lights. Because if you know the story of the Indians, is that it's a very paternal culture. So the
Yeah.
women do everything pretty
Yeah,
much.
they do.
And if there's no water, and often there is no water, they have to walk. Sometimes they walk 2 hours each way, and the water they get is filthy. So the kids are getting sick. They have to get a loan out for any medical help. So they're always playing defense.
Yeah.
They're always struggling to live. So if you give them clean water, not only does it save all that time, but now the kids are well,
Yeah.
and they can do their education. And so now, and then the mums can do a little cottage industry. They do some sewing or basket making or things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And hey, they can start to get on top.
Find
And
joy finally. Yeah.
yes, find joy. So in our kit, you can go onto our website. You can see it. It's got something for if they haven't got a well. We've been given wells. So if they haven't got a well, they can get clean water because it's a filter system.
Yeah.
Solar lights, which
Mm.
will last 6 to 8 hours, so they can do their homework at night.
Oh.
A mosquito net to protect them at night, so they don't get sick with mosquito bites, and a football to have some fun.
Oh, fantastic. Oh,
So
wow.
we're really excited. We're very excited. We just
That is
launched this. We're very excited by this. We want to get 1,000 of these out there in the next year,
oh my
and
goodness. Yeah.
it helps people to start winning in life and start playing offense. And one of the things I think about, is that there's all that hidden talent in these villages.
I know.
There's maybe Einsteins waiting there,
Yeah.
Olympic athletes, brilliant
So true.
musicians,
Yeah.
and they just to be given a chance. They just need a chance, to blossom.
Got no opportunity. I know.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
my
it.
goodness. Exactly. And that's why I always say, we're so privileged in the Western world. We can do
Oh,
whatever we like. And this is why
yeah,
I'm so hugely grateful, because I could have been in one of those villages if it weren't for my mom and dad coming here to the
right.
UK.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
All of us. I mean, all of us. We especially as you say in the West, we should be overflowing with Thanksgiving.
honestly,
Overflowing with Thanksgiving because we've got so much. The very fact that we can eat and drink,
exactly.
and we're free, and we've
Yeah,
got this beautiful country where I'm a beautiful countryside around. We can look up and see the sun, and we've got a roof to sleep over. It's dry. We should be overflowing with Thanksgiving.
honestly, the
We
amount of
really should.
gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love how now is in your life, you're just giving, aren't you? You're just got this abundance of just contribution that you're just changing the whole world. So
Yeah.
what else are you doing?
Well, we do the other stuff we do is online pretty much. We have 5 Facebook groups, which got nearly 1,000 people in total now in those groups, private Facebook groups for people who are depressed. In 2017, the World Health Organization said that the biggest this is 2017 before COVID.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
They
So
said the biggest global illness now is depression. The biggest cause of death for those under 35, this is global, is suicide. And at the moment, this is going on now. There's just been a survey come out, global survey of young people, and there is unbelievable anxiety, not only because of all COVID and everything else, but because of the climate issue.
Yeah.
And I call it a crisis of hopelessness.
Oh, okay.
We hardly ever hear it on the news, but there's
No.
unbelievable levels of overdose, people taking overdoses now, and suicide through the roof. We don't hear about that. We heard about COVID. We don't hear about the other things.
No, we don't. Yeah.
So that is huge now, and it's because people lose hope. We grow up in this atheistic culture where there is no God. There's no one outside humans. Where unless we have the answer, we're finished. And here's a statistic, and I've got some of these slightly wrong, but something like 78% said they're really, really anxious about the climate issue.
Yeah.
48% say that it bothers them every single day. It's in their mind.
Right.
56% said that we're doomed.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
And then they got a quote of one of these young people who said, they said, I don't want to die, but I don't want to live in a world that hates children and hates animals. In other words, there's no hope.
Oh, no.
So when you lose hope, it's not long before you're going to die of one thing or another. Hope is the lamp of the soul. We all need to have hope. There's better days ahead. If you don't believe there's better days ahead and your life stinks today, why would you go on?
Exactly.
Yeah. So now for me, I believe there's something way better going. I believe I'm going to see Rebecca and Alex again.
That's
I do. I'm going to see them.
Yeah.
I believe they're more alive than we are.
Yeah.
So I have this great hope ahead. Do I miss them? Yeah. It doesn't take away the pain of missing them. I'm not trying to pretend it's not painful. It is. But I know the end of the story. I know there's better days ahead. So I do. That's why my book's called Living Hope.
I love that. Yeah. Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense. But
Yes.
did you believe as well, this is just our physical form? And well, I don't know, again, if you believe in the spirit world.
Yeah. Well, that's a
Yeah.
big part of the Christian faith, is that
Mm.
absolutely the real us is actually
Spirit.
spiritual, so to
Yeah.
speak. We live in a body,
Yeah.
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 We have a mind, but when we die, it's our spirit that goes on.
Yeah.
The you, if you like, who you are. That's
Yeah.
why I love the. Do you remember the bit in Avatar when the girl
Oh,
says to the guy, "I see you." Ginny and I,
yes.
we love
Oh,
that
I
bit. I
love
can see
that. I
you.
love that. So
The
it's so
outside has
emotional.
changed,
Yeah.
but she could see him.
The
Who he is.
spirit. Oh, yes.
So absolutely, we
Yeah.
there's a whole other world out there,
Mm.
and I mean that's the foolishness of humans, especially in the West. I mean, most other parts of the world they understand it, but in the West we sort of think, well, if you
Yeah.
can't see it, it's not there.
Yeah.
Well, come on, guys.
Yeah. It's
Have
so
you ever seen
narrow-minded.
the wind? Have you ever seen the wind?
I know,
You
right?
see the
Yeah.
impact. You've never seen the wind. You've never seen but with your natural eye anyway, the ultraviolet lights coming in. You don't see the magnetic field. You don't see bacteria and all the tiny things. There's masses around you can't see.
And I'm
That
sorry, but contactless everything now. You don't see any of the rays or radiations or
yeah,
electricity. It's like, come on, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The
Get
logic
with the
is totally
times.
off. And
It
there's so
is.
much evidence, of course,
Yeah, there is.
in well, I'd say in the scriptures, for the fact that there is a whole other world out there. In fact, what I'd say heaven is more real than earth. Heaven is more
Yeah,
real. This is
I
a
believe that.
shadow of heaven. And Gene and I now feel as though we're on a sort of mission, if you like, while we're here,
Okay,
which is to help other people, is to love on other people and encourage them to help other people too.
that's beautiful. I don't want to keep taking you back there, but I'm just thinking. So, do you find that if you were like this as you are today, do you feel that a lot of the tragic events may not have happened?
No, I was a believer before.
Okay,
I was a
you were,
Christian
yeah.
before, and I was serving God before.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
and so, that's the big question. People say, why do bad things happen to good people, don't they?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
And in one sense, it's not fair because we're in a world that's of disorder. It's a
Mm.
broken world. And I mean, there's several things in it. One of the things is bad people will not get away with it if they don't receive forgiveness.
Yeah.
There is going to be a day of reckoning. I
Okay.
believe that, and the
Yeah.
scriptures talk about that. There's going to be a day of judgment.
Mm.
Now, if you've allowed Jesus to take the judgment that we all deserve, which he did for all of us, if you accept that and receive that, then you are forgiven and you're not going to face that judgment. But if you've rejected that and said, no, 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 I don't need that, I think I'm good enough,
Yeah.
there is going to be a day of reckoning because
Okay.
if I mean, it's all very logical.
Oh,
If you understand that God is perfect and he's way bigger than way other dimension to us, he's a just God. We
yeah.
understand justice,
Mm.
yeah, and with justice you have to have punishment.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's not justice, is it?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Balance.
So yeah, so I believe very much so that yeah, there's better days ahead. And
Yeah.
why, you might say, well, why did that happen to us? Well, I think again it comes back to, if you look through the scriptures and through
Mm.
history, sometimes God does permit bad things to happen to good people,
Okay.
but it's always for a bigger, and this is the point, a bigger eternal
Wow.
benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
benefit that can come out of this, if we respond well, now we could get bitter, and there's been times where I've struggled with taking offence.
Yeah.
Why did this happen to us? And Jeannie had
Exactly.
years. I mean, she was depressed for 2 years, and
Yeah.
she was so angry and full of hate, and it was horrible, horrible, horrible. And she would say that now, but she can relate to people who are in that place now because of what she went through. That's the
Yeah.
thing. We have a story in our life now that allows us to relate to anybody, so that we can help anybody and say, you don't want to stay where you are. You want to come back to life, don't you?
Oh, wow.
You don't want to stay in darkness, and here's how you can do that. And so
Okay.
we're able to help people like that, and hopefully millions of people. And we put a video out last year. It reached 3 million people. One and a
Wow.
half million people saw it, and we had all these comments back of people who said, "Oh, you've been so helpful." People have had to commit suicide and blah blah blah. So I don't know the total
Absolutely.
number of people that we've been able to help, but I know that we've helped some, and
Yeah.
that encourages us.
Absolutely. Wow. It's such an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing this. And I think if anything, it gives my listeners hope that
Yeah,
no matter what they've endured in their lifetime, or if they're currently in a situation which, they may not be getting treated very well, then to understand that, there is hope and that the future
yeah,
is going to be bright, maybe not
yes,
now, but it's what
yes,
lesson they can learn from this,
yes,
what can
yes,
they gain from this so that they can go on and inspire others who may be going
yeah,
through the
yeah.
same
That's right.
situation. So I think
That's
that's
and to think that what they can do now to help others through their pain. They may not be in a place yet to hear that. And I know
yeah,
we go through different phases. So you don't
exactly.
say certain things to certain people if they're not
Mm,
in the right place.
yeah.
But there may be some listeners who think, yeah, I'd like to turn that around
Mm,
to help other people. I'll tell you the story of a young girl in Southern California. We have this group of people we're raising up called Hope Warriors who are doing just as we're saying it.
yeah.
And there's this young girl in Southern California. She was taken into human trafficking, and she was basically in prostitution. She was
Yeah.
captured and as a young child, and
Wow.
she came out. She came out of it at 15, I think it was. She was rescued, and
Okay.
she said, "I want to spend the rest of my life helping other girls who were
Wow.
caught in this."
Oh,
Another guy, Frank, who we met in Chicago, and he had been an orphan in Rwanda after the atrocities there.
okay.
And he told us about it, and he said, "I got this vision to start an orphanage." He said, "Because I want to help other kids who are now where I was. I want to
Yeah.
help them." And so we're now
Wow.
partnering. We've launched this orphanage in Rwanda to help them
Oh
get out.
my goodness.
So there's
Wow.
people here who've been through, abuse of one form or another.
Yeah.
You can't imagine how you could help others if you're now at a place where you can help. You feel
Mm,
you're ready to do that.
yeah, for
And
sure.
imagine if everybody who went through a bad thing turned
Just
around and helped others. What would
wow.
happen in this world?
That would be an absolute change
Wouldn't it?
maker
Wouldn't
for
it?
the
It would
whole
change
wide world.
everything, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would. Yeah. Wow. And it's about seeing the light. I mean, I know I've been in those darkness moments where there was no light. I just
Yeah.
thought the only way now is death. That's all
Yeah.
that's left, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awful. Yeah.
It looks so dark, and
Mm,
you're hurting so much. You want to get away from the pain, um, and you need someone to
mm.
put their arm around you,
Yeah, it
just to
does.
love on you.
I was going to say
Yeah.
that's another thing that we all need is support,
Yeah.
having that community feel,
Yes.
love,
Yes.
connection.
Exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. And especially in those early days, don't try and fix the person. That's the last thing they want.
no,
But we do need that love and support. Just to hear that, look, uh, I'm so hurting for you. I'm so sorry,
yeah,
and I'm
okay,
here for you. And if you're a person of faith, like I'm praying for you.
yeah,
And just I call it the ministry of presence. You're just present.
okay.
You're just
Oh,
present.
that's beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I suppose another term for that is empathy, having
Yeah.
empathy. Yeah.
It is. It is. That's right.
Mm,
Yeah. That's it. Part of the journey.
yeah. Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, and then we have various steps that we go through to help people get through this. I'll say it if we've got time. Do you want
Yeah,
me to,
yeah,
So
absolutely.
the first one is I call it grieving well,
Okay.
and this could be from anything. It's when you're really hurting. Is we're human beings. We need to grieve.
Mm,
Now, in other cultures, they're much better at grieving. In the Hebrews, in the scriptures, they had to take a whole month off when they'd lost a
wow.
loved one,
Okay.
and would be intentional about allowing the grief to come out.
Yeah.
And crying is a very natural thing. And
Mm,
if there's any guys listening, guys,
fine.
it's
Yeah.
you're being strong to
Yeah.
allow yourself to cry. It's not strong to hold it back. That's just being
No.
unnatural. And you want to get in contact with your humanity, and you'll
Yeah.
be much more attractive. I'll tell you, if you're willing to be who you are.
It's
So
true. Yeah.
cry and cry well, and sob. I mean, I just cried so much in those early days. I my wells used to dry because I used to cry. It used to be nothing left. Grieve well. Grieve well. It's really important. Don't bottle it up. Secondly, be loved.
Yeah.
And when I talk about that is that we it's like our tank's been emptied through grief and suffering,
Okay.
and our tanks need to be filled up. And that, think of it like that. And so how do we do that? Well, love is the key, is the most important thing. Think about who is it who loves you. Think about how they care for you.
Yeah.
Think about the fact that they're there for you. And then love on yourself as well. And what I mean by that is that we have God-given senses, and those senses need to be energized, and those senses help to build up that tank inside. So, for example, getting out in the sunshine, just feeling the sun on your face,
Yeah.
or listening to a bird. I just love listening to the birds singing. Just unbelievable. Especially the smaller, the more powerful it is.
Yeah.
Take time to smell a flower, or a rose. Look at the beauty in creation. A sunset. Yes, food. Don't have to eat too much food, but enjoy the good food, the taste and everything.
Yeah.
We've been given senses to make us more human,
Yeah.
and we come alive with those senses. So love on yourself as well. Allow yourself to be energized again, and for those tanks to fill up. The third thing is to embrace. We call it embrace, which is to embrace the fact that what's happened to you is now part of you.
Okay. All right.
Don't try and pretend you're not, you haven't changed. You have changed because of what's happened, but you can change for the better.
Yeah.
You become more of a human being, someone who can do more good in this world through what's happened to you. Embrace that. Embrace it. Someone who's had their leg amputated, they wouldn't pretend I've got two legs still. They would fall over, wouldn't they, if they did that? So make sure that you embrace it, and part of that is forgiveness.
Okay.
Do not go on without forgiving. Same as that, don't go on without grieving. If you may think you're doing well, but later on it will come back and bite you, and that's where people often get into depression and other things. It's because there's things that have never been dealt with. It's deep inside. Allow these things to come up and be healed. Fourthly, for me, it's promises. So I hold on to the promises in Scripture. Things like God said, "I'll never leave you or forsake you." So when it's really looking dark, to think, "Oh, actually, God is there, and He does care, and He does love me, and He is going to make it better." Those are promises that when you've got the storms of life that wash over you, and it seems as though they're going to suck you under, and you're not going to come up. You need something to hold on to. You need an anchor for your soul. And I take that an anchor as being God's promises for me. And then the fifth thing is what we've been talking about a lot is actually now see it as a calling. You have a calling on your life. And you're able to do something with what you've been through to help other people. Help other people. And so those are the 5 steps of journeying through suffering.
Brilliant, that. Wow. And I suppose you talk about this a lot more in your book as well.
Yes, absolutely. Please get the book. It was a 3 times bestseller on Amazon, 3 categories.
Wow.
And people are using it now to mentor young people.
Wow.
If you're a parent or grandparent, get it for the children, get it for the young folks, because as I say, there is this crisis of hopelessness, and the book's all about finding your purpose in life. I talk about going through seasons.
Oh, okay.
And not taking anything for granted. There's a purpose behind things. And we come alive when we're in the sweet spot of God's calling on our lives. So this book helps people to find out, why is it I went through what I went through as a child? Why is it? What are these gifts I've been given? What are these experiences I've had? See that they're all for a purpose. And when you find your purpose is the friend of hope. Hope is the lamp of the soul. When you find your purpose and you give yourself to it, you can get fully fulfilled in that.
That's so true. And again, a message which I fully resonate with, because I was such a lost soul until I actually found my purpose, which was again, to use all my traumas to actually help others, which is what I'm doing now.
Well, bless you for doing that. That's wonderful that you're doing this. That's fantastic. Fantastic.
Thank you. And for you as well. Oh, wow. I just think it's such an important message. And I can tell my listeners that, before we actually hit the record, I actually expressed to Gerard that I got really emotional when I was listening to his video, and that, for me, this is quite quite a tragic story that you've been through, but the way that you see it is so enlightening. It's just so inspirational.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you for the thing, and that tells me that your heart is soft, that you can feel the pain, and that's a lovely. We need to feel each other's pain, and that's lovely that you do that. So thank you for that, and that for all that you're doing to help others. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So where can my listeners find you?
So if you're interested in the book, you can get it on Amazon or all the major bookstores. Just go in there, Living Hope, and then we have a web page for that, livinghopebook.com. That will give you a bit more of our story, some of the pictures and everything else. And then we have our ministry site, which is awakeningtogod.org. Awakeningtogod.org is our website. You'll find us on Facebook. I do video lives quite often. We send out messages there. You can join one of our Facebook groups. We're on Instagram. We have YouTube channel. We've done a whole marriage course on YouTube. There's about 20 sessions. We've got about 9,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Wow.
We do songs on there. We're just about to launch another song. And so, yeah, please
Amazing.
make the use of the resources.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hopefully you get, it'll help you on your journey.
Oh, I love that. And I think, the marriage one, a lot of people may need to educate themselves on what marriage is, actually. Because, what is marriage? Including me.
Well,
what is marriage?
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, because I'm a person of faith, I do it from what the scriptures teach how marriage should be. Because if God is love and marriage is His idea, we should go back to the Maker's instructions and follow His instructions. So I just share that,
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, yeah, I'm definitely going to check that one out.
Have a look at that. Have a look at it. Yeah.
Wow, it's an absolute honor. So I will be adding all the links onto this episode, so you can follow Gerard and go and join his groups, which I already know the messages that you're spreading globally, and just how much it's going to really impact the world, especially now during such a crazy time that we're going through as well.
Absolutely. And I see it all, it's all connecting the dots is all part of it, isn't it? Because there's so much suffering. So much suffering in this world today.
Just the fear as well.
Loneliness, all of these things, depression, as we've talked about. And we want to lighten up people's faces and get them as a victor. Becoming victors.
Find the joy in life. Find your purpose.
Right. Absolutely. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Spread it around.
Yeah. So let's keep spreading the light.
That's it. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, brilliant. So that's all we have time for today, unfortunately. I hope you all enjoyed the show. And again, thank you, Gerard, for coming on and sharing hope. Again, it's such a powerful word. Have hope and just have faith as well.
Yeah.
Faith, such a powerful word. Be grateful for, the fact that we've been given this beautiful life, the fact that we've got a beating heart. And just try and stay present. Just try and just kind of go with your breath, because a lot of us, we even forget to breathe properly, and it's just that presence again, which could be so healing in itself.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like the bit about the beating heart. I appreciate my beating heart every day now.
Yeah. Oh, and that's something, because I do my grace every morning, and that's something that I always say. I don't know where it comes from, but thank you, God.
Well, that's good. You're closer than you realize.
I know.
You're closer than you realize. Yes.
And thank you, listeners, for your support, and for obviously listening to my episodes, and for hopefully you're inspired by this episode. And thank you for Gerard for inspiring my listeners. And I will be back again with another episode, another inspirational episode. But in the meantime, stay blessed, my friends, and just stay loved. We love you. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Victim to Victor. Subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes, and be sure to follow the podcast on socials to keep updated on what's next, and share Victim to Victor with family and friends to help grow the community and spread the positive healing energy. You may also wish to join me on the path to self-discovery and sign up to my 12-week self-empowerment plan, which will be linked below.